right, motion by Ms. Bryant, second by Mr. Kennedy to adopt the agenda as recommended by the superintendent. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, the motion passes 5-0. We do have a chance for citizen comments now. If you would like to approach the board, we need to fill out a small green card we have in the back. Do we have any cards that have been filled out? Okay, would anyone like to approach the board and make any public comment? I will give you another opportunity at the end of the meeting, but if you would like to come now for an agenda item, you can come before the board at this time. Okay, seeing none, we're going to move into item number 3, School Support Services, Mr. Johnny Bishop. And we have Human Resources, Susie Swain.
It's still morning. Good morning. I ask the board to approve the instructional and support recommendations as listed on the goldenrod.
Amy Richard, I taught her back in the day. She's back in Citrus County.
Yes, she is.
That's amazing. All right. A rock crusher. We're not surprised.
I think we need a list of the few people you haven't taught. It would be a much smaller list.
There's a whole bunch on this
Both
side of the
of you.
county.
I taught Sandy.
Who's it? Her brother. Oh, yeah. I taught Todd too. Never mind. We
Approval
digress.
for personnel instructional support as recommended by the superintendent.
Second.
All right, motion by Ms. Count, second by Mr. Kennedy to approve the instructional and support recommendations. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0.
Next on the agenda is to ask the board's approval of the new job description for District Police Chief.
I move approval. Second.
All right, the motion by Ms. Bryant, second by Ms. Powers, to approve the new job description for District Police Chief. Is there any comments?
Before we vote, Mr. Dodd, I would just say, is there anything the board could appeal or hear before you make your vote that we could add you to it? Because I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm just kind of leaning, and I'm just saying we would love to have you a part of it. And so if there's something we could consider in order to get you to do that, I would be open to that.
Well, I appreciate that, and I too would like to think that maybe you all would reconsider, and let's put this behind us right now. And that's what my challenge to you would be. We can bring this back on a moment's notice. I mean, we don't have to approve this right now. We can send the message that we're on board with the School Resource Officer Program, and the existing program is the way it is. And if things change this next year, and if we get into a different type program or a different need, we can easily approve these job descriptions at that time. So for me, the timing is not good, and I would like to think that you all may reconsider your votes.
I would just like to go ahead and keep these on the table because we've mentioned this, the Guardian program. I don't have my microphone on. We've mentioned the Guardian program, which, we don't know that we can put that in place. But this would give us another opportunity to put another person on campus. And I know we don't know the figures yet, but I'm saying if we've just seen a film that, and we know other counties are doing the Guardian program, we know we have a problem with that here in Citrus County. Approving these job descriptions today gives us that opportunity. If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it is a duck, and I don't care whether you call it a guardian or a police officer. This gives us an opportunity to put another person, whether we have the cooperation of our sheriff or not.
And so I appreciate those comments. My response to that would be, if and when we get to a Guardian program, we're going to have to approve a job description. If the sheriff does not take the position on as his employee, we're going to have to approve a job description for a Guardian. And that's when we could readdress these issues, these job descriptions, is at the same time we address the job descriptions for a Guardian. So that's why, again, I will see the need much more to have a Guardian rather than a district police officer. That's where I see the next need for us, is to have a Guardian program. So that's, in my thinking, we could, once we know what we need and what we have to provide, that's when we could approve job descriptions and look at funding. So, Mr. Kennedy?
I have some real concerns with the communication issue that's going on. between,
You mean it's not going on?
that is not going on.
Thank you.
I have concerns about when we're trying to collaborate on locations of SROs. That has always been the case. I haven't seen something improve through these negotiations. It's not gotten better even since the contract signed in just the last few days. I'm not giving a lot of comfort to say I shouldn't be going forward when things continue to deteriorate backwards. And I am totally with you in all of what you're saying, Mr. Dodd, but we're not going in the right direction. The relationships are not going in the right direction. You talked and showed us communication is critical. And we have heard over and over that. And I will tell you, I understand that the sheriff's wanting to talk now that we're moving forward on this. There's been 5 months. There's been 5 months. We've had this, and I think this board can't deal with more talk and not enough action when it comes to these situations.
Okay. Are there any other comments in regards to this? We have a motion on the floor to approve the new job description for the district police chief. Is there any other comments? Anything
Do we
else?
now have a second?
I'm sorry, motion and second, yes,
Okay.
motion and second. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Nay, the vote is 4-1, the motion passes 4-1.
Number 3, I ask the board to approve the new job description for district police officer.
Move to approve the job description for district police officer. Second.
All right, motion by Ms. Count, second by Ms. Powers to approve the new job description for the district police officer. Is there any discussion? You know, again, I'll just come back to say, you know, the same thing I've said before. I just think it sends the wrong message to where we are right now, but I understand the will of the board, and so that's all I'll say. Is there any other discussion?
I think the wrong message continues to get heard at this board level too, though. And that's why we're here. Your discussion on communication was well received by me. So, you know, it's something. And I just, Mr. Dodd, I cannot say enough about how much I have appreciated your leadership during this
Well,
time.
yeah.
And I don't want that, I think all of this board feels that way. That's why we're,
Well, I mean, there's no doubt we all want the best for children, so.
Yes, we do,
yeah.
And Doug, you showed the video, when we talk about communication, I was sitting, these people from so many different areas of life doing so many different things, they're really communicating with each other on this subject. And you're so right, we need to communicate.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Nay. Motion passes 4-1.
Number 4, I ask the board to approve the new job description for a public information and communications officer.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, motion.
I've been waiting a while to do that.
Motion by Mr. Kenny, second by Ms. Powers to approve the new job description for public information and communication officer. Is there any discussion?
This person's gonna work an awful lot.
Only that this job description is gonna be great big shoes to fill.
It is.
And we just have to say, we just should call this the Chris Communications Officer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also adding on line 5 the item of education. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, item B, risk management. Ms. Cernich.
Yes, I would like to ask the board's approval for the school safety funding agreement between the School Board of Citrus County, Florida and Citrus County, Florida for the 2018-2019 school year.
Move approval.
Second?
Just for the board, I brought the original agreements that were signed by the Board of County Commissioners, Mr. Kitchen last week over. So they've already approved that agreement.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Bryan, second by Ms. Kennels to approve the school safety funding agreement between the school board of Citrus County and Citrus County, Florida for the 2018-2019 school year. Is there any discussion? So board members, we're all clear that this money is coming from the county commission who has supported our efforts to provide safe schools. That money is coming to the school district, and the school district is going to approve the receipt of that money. And then our next item, there's an item to approve a contract with the sheriff for the school resource officer program. This item is to accept the money from the county commission.
It'll start October 1.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bradshaw, that's right. They've already funded the program through September 30th with the sheriff.
Their portion.
Right, for their portion, okay. And,
Tammy's well aware of the monies that's coming in October 1 and what we're currently paying, we're showing them
right. And Mr. Bradshaw, on this contract, can you just give a quick overview of those items that we're in agreement with the financial accountability, you know, as far as how that's gonna work? I guess that'd be more in the next contract, though, wouldn't it, with the sheriff?
They have similar provisions.
Okay.
Part of the contract with the county was to have similar provisions contained in our contract. So I believe in both of the contracts, the sheriff is going to put the SROs under a cost center beginning October 1st, to allow for financial reporting and auditing. There's an audit provision that is contained in the contracts, and the only change from the previous audit provision was that a paragraph that said, or a line that said that whoever's requesting the audit will pay for the audit services.
Okay.
There's also a line that was added sometime in there that says from, I think from our last meeting, that said that private donations, you know,
Right.
are not considered
Right.
part of the revenue.
But the grants would be worked on collaboratively, and
Correct.
there'd be an approval process, which is in this
Correct.
contract.
Yes, well, that's in our contract, yes.
Right, okay. All right, anything else? Okay, so we have a motion second on the floor. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
I'd like to, before you address the second,
Yes, ma'am.
about the contract for Vanessa and Sheriff's Office. I just talked to Major Lenhard, and we're going to get staff together, and we're going to go over some of the concerns we've had about communication, what we're being notified, what's not being notified, so that we have a clear process of what, of how that works, so that we can get that out to the schools and individual schools, and we can work forward from that. All right, so we'll work on that.
Because you called break, you got a chance to talk to them.
Do what?
We had a break and
Oh.
I was at the sidebar meeting earlier. No, I'm only kidding. No,
We can get that there.
yeah. Okay, that's good. Okay, item number 2.
I request approval for the 2018-2019 agreement between the School Board of Citrus County and the Citrus County Sheriff's Office for the School Resource Officer Program.
Move approval of the 2018-2019 agreement between the School Board of Citrus County Sheriff's Office for the School Resource Officer Program.
I second it.
That's fine.
Couple of things coming up we wanted to get out of the way.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy and a second by Ms. Powers to approve the 2018-2019 agreement between the School Board of Citrus County and the Citrus County Sheriff's Office for the School Resource Officer Program. Is there any discussion or questions on that?
Just want to say one thing, I can stop saying as of yesterday, the figure was. I don't know what it really is.
That's right.
It's safe saying.
That's right.
I think Superintendent Himmel answered my one question on ID, where it said if the incident of criminal nature, potential Baker Act, the SRO will take the appropriate action. And that's been one of our lack of communications too, when we weren't informed.
We're gonna work that.
Yeah, so, you know, we need to all be on the same page. And so I'm glad that she cleared that up, because I had a question on that one.
And also, Mr. Bradshaw, the agreement is for a proportionate share that was worked out as far as if any extra or any additional monies were to come in.
For the SRO.
For the SRO program, yes. obviously, we're not talking about Harding money, there's other programs, so, you know, that's, I think, very equitable. And again, I am just so grateful that the county commission is funding, continues to fund this program, which is a big deal. And so it's a great thing for our community. We look at this as a community response. You know, we look at the community policing, keeping our children safe. And so they have skin in the game, and man, it is, I'm so glad that we're in partnership. It's significant, thank you, and we're in partnership with them.
Mr. Bradshaw, can you just state regarding the clause regarding, I'm sorry, on grants? I believe it's that we will cooperate or collaboratively is the word. Is that correct? That's the word within the contract itself.
It's either cooperative, I don't have the contract.
That's okay.
So-
But that is the intent of it. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions?
Good job, Mr. Bradshaw, getting all that cleared out. So we can understand y'all.
Thank you. I helped working with the sheriff's office attorney and the county attorney through all of this, and so we all work well together, so it, glad it all came together.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Surich. Next item on the agenda is attorney legal matters. Okay, thank you, Mr.
Music to
Bradshaw.
our ears.
I will ask for another opportunity now for public comment. If anyone would like to make public comment, come before the board for public comment.
These are the updated ones, that's all.
No, it's okay.
Is that in here? Okay.
We have you on video.
Did he? That's good. Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come up here today. A lot of discussion about communication. Communication is a two-way street too, and there has been a lot of communication on the things that are going on, what we're trying to accomplish as a team, as a whole. Even the placement of personnel in the schools. My phone rings 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's done it for 26 years. I never will not answer that call, whether I'm on duty, off duty, whether I'm doing something else. So specifically speaking to the sergeant placement in the schools, that phone call occurred on Friday, and my answer was this. Hey, look, we need to sit down and talk about this. This is a joint effort. This is where we're going to put people strategically. So this is not a one-way street, this is a two-way street. First and foremost, they work for me. So we need to put them where we think, boy, I think you got some good ideas going on. So that hadn't been decided yet. So I hear a lot of talk about just basically being defiant, and that's not the case. The case is we're going to get to the bottom of this, and we'll figure a lot of this out as we go along. So I'm appreciative that the SROs, the agreement's been signed. We're going to continue doing what we've done for a long time. It's for the benefit of the kids, it's for the benefit of the community, it's a benefit for all of us. So I really just want to take the moment to possibly answer any questions that you have, because there's a lot of undertones that have been said today. So if there's anything in specific that you'd like to ask me that I could answer today, be glad to do it. Yes, ma'am. And I'm better with the question and answer thing.
Okay, I hear your question.
Go ahead.
On the sergeant
Yes.
placement, it's our understanding that Sergeant Berry covers AES many times,
His office is at AES, that's correct,
and that the SRO there goes to other locations.
at times. Correct.
And I would have to ask, why would that happen when the SRO is supposed to be at AES?
Only for coverage purposes, so you got a guy that's out on shoulder surgery injured, which we currently do. So the officer himself is probably going to go from school to school doing coverage detail. Somebody calls in sick that day or whatever else it may be. But we're just trying to ensure that we have proper coverage at all the schools. So that's where that officer's kind of going to come into play, or you have another one that has a death in the family. We're currently facing that scenario right now.
And we understand that, and that was the agreement in the contract.
Yep.
But my question is, why, and you told me to ask a question. Why is the SRO being moved from his location when the sergeant is the one that's supposed to be doing the coverage?
And we'll do it both ways, probably. We'll probably try to leave that officer there at the school that he's assigned to, primarily for that basically communication between them and the students. But there's gonna be times where we'll move one, but primarily we'll try to do it with a sergeant. My idea behind this is for supervision wise, those sergeants should be supervising the SROs that are in the schools anyhow. They should be going out and ensuring that they're doing their jobs correctly, they're covering the school appropriately, they're teaching, they're evaluating, they're doing all these things, and they're communicating with the principals of every school. That's the idea behind a supervisor's role, along with paperwork. And you know, he's got to do evaluations, uses of force, you know, proven reports that they write. So he's got an administrative duty also, but primarily we'll use the sergeant as coverage, but we're trying to keep them in a supervisory role is what we're trying to do.
And I agree, because that's what we all agreed on. I was just gonna take it back that he was covering AES and then assigned SRO was covering for other schools.
That's correct. And so it may happen from time to time, but that's not the plan per se.
Ms. Adele, would you take off the timer, please? We're asking questions now, so go ahead, Ms. Parrish.
Was it before the person who was like a sergeant or in charge at the Canton High School, that complex there?
We have three.
But we do have a
East
sergeant
side,
there.
west side, and central.
Okay, so the person you're talking about is
He's west side.
west side,
Mhm.
and at the Canton High School, there's
We have
somebody
one,
too?
we have one central at the Canton, in the complex.
Okay, one person.
Now, he's
who's-
located there, right, he covers other schools besides the Canton.
That's correct. He's got other officers.
Because I remember that person used to really, he could go every place pretty rapidly and did. There's always other places.
Mhm.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. And like we've discussed previously, there's going to be scenarios or a Baker Act or something where somebody's got to get to another school. That's why we need, you know, the coverage personnel, and supervisors are doing a pretty good job of doing that right now. But Sergeant Frank's currently over at WTC. He's not in his current, you know, his other location. So for the time period that that's going to go on, you know, he's going to have to take up that responsibility, puts a little bit more on his shoulders, and doesn't really leave us a lot of flexibility for other scenarios that go on. But it's working.
And I know that student services out there too, so the person was able to access student services right away because it was right there in the building.
Mhm.
So anything went on there, he knew it in seconds.
That's correct.
So, that was good, I like that.
That's correct.
You know, Major Leonard, I've got a question that just kind of perplexes me on the undertone of the message. You know, we've had school resource officers for 33 years. We've got a contract that says school resource officers. We got state law that says school resource officers.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows what an SRO is. And now there's a change to say they're not an SRO, they're an SRD.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why are we at that level? Why can't we
Decision.
call them school resource
You can call them
officers?
an officer, you can call them a deputy, you can call them the fuzz. They're law enforcement.
Right, well,
That's
let's
pretty
just,
much what it is.
yeah,
And
I think it's easy that we don't confuse
Yeah.
people.
Well,
We
there's-
call them SROs. I mean, that's what they are. I mean, I just, I'm surprised that all of a sudden I go to these meetings and they're not SROs anymore.
Mhm.
And so, you know, to me, I think that's, you know, I didn't really care for that. We're in this together. It's a collaborative effort. It's what the program is everywhere around the state. It's what the program should be called here.
Yeah.
So, you know, my hopes are that, you know, we get back to calling them school resource
Yeah,
officers.
and I mean, to answer that question, there's many agencies call them SRDs, call them deputy sheriffs. They work for a sheriff and they're a deputy. So
Yeah.
whether we argue about it, whether we think it's petty or not,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, they're doing their job, they have a responsibility, that's what they're there for, and I'm not gonna quabble over minor things. That's kind of my point.
Good, so maybe we'll call them all SROs.
What about the change? I noticed the change,
The
but
sheriff changed it in the contract.
Sheriff would like to call them deputies.
SR, you know, in terms of.
Police,
English.
police forces have officers. Sheriff's office have
In
deputies.
terms of English, the O sound is the one that brings more positivity.
Oh.
And I think it's because we actually refer to it affectionately.
Mhm.
I mean, I think it's, for us, it's as much as saying coach or
Yeah.
dad, is when we say SROs,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, SRO. They're, and believe me, the deputies are amazing. But I think we actually have been grown to think an SRO is higher than a deputy in a road deputy, because for our schools, they've had additional training. They've had education that's in addition to the deputies. And so I think for us, it really is a sign of respect when we said it. So all of a sudden we thought, well, where'd that respect go? And I don't know, Mr. Dodd, if that's, if I'm on the right tone with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just think that it is kind of petty that, I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, we signed the contract that says school resource officers, and, that's just what I wish we all called. Yeah.
I'm still concerned when it comes to communication. I understand this. I understand having a call late in the thing and going, wait a minute. I understand the summer issue. Okay, I understand those communication issues, and I absolutely would say we play roles in that. I don't when we deal with things like Baker Acts. I don't when we understand there's intel that's going to affect the safety of a school, and that information is sometimes said, well, you're on a need-to-know basis, and you're not going to know. That's the concerns that I have, and I believe statute now is saying we need to have collaborative conversations in those. There needs to be information going back and forth. If there are limitations that you have in law, that's fine. We address those, we accept those. But if there's things where we're just saying, we just are having that information and we're not going to share it with you because you know what, there's just a lot of things we know and we're not going to share anymore.
Well, I think the answer to this, if it's critical to the safety and security of that school, you're going to know. I can tell you that.
That may be, but are you saying then that off-duty, after hours, Baker Acts infecting our children are going to be information that's shared now with our school
I
district?
think we can have those discussions. I think there's, like I always say, there's devils in the details. If you're going to work an investigation and it may be the same type of crime, it may not be the same
Agreed.
details.
Completely
So
agree.
I think that's on a judgment basis of how it affects the school. Can't agree with you more that there's certain scenarios that absolutely rise to a way higher level than other ones do. So I think that needs to be a good judgment effort, and that we make those decisions then.
And that's why I will tell you, the SROs, no disrespect again, saying it that way, but I have great respect and faith in there. I feel like there's now been this, okay, we don't know what we can share with our administrators, because now all of a sudden there's been this thing between the sheriff's office and the school district, and that to me is not good for kids. That's not good for safety. They need to have the freedom to have those relationships and those conversations, and I trust that those deputies know what they can and cannot be sharing and what is going to impede an investigation or be of a detriment.
I absolutely agree with you.
And
Yes.
that's what, though, the feedback that I'm saying is concerning. I think it's totally correctable. I think it's unnecessary on anybody's part, all of our parts. That's got to be improved if we're going to move forward.
Yeah.
And that call in the middle of the night, when we have a student that dies, that's got to be some type of communication. If that had happened on a Sunday night, we would have been dealing with a very serious situation at our schools. We would have needed to have counselors on campus.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. And those lines of communication still happen. And the things that we face today are different than what we faced yesterday. And that's what law enforcement is. It's an ever-changing battle, man, and we got to make adjustments all the time. It's just like anything else, or other types of businesses. That's what you do. Now, in that case in specific, we got it to the school before we knew school was going to roll around. And those lines of communication are open. So the matter of the fact of it is that we want that to happen too, because we understand what's going to happen on that campus.
But saying, though, that it's not that we were
traumatic
going to know before the start of school isn't the same as saying we wanted to let you know at the most appropriate time as quickly as you can so that you could respond to it. Because if we're finding out on social media and we're finding out and through other means, that's not an appropriate way of getting that communication.
And I got to tell you, the world we live in, 5 minutes after it happens, it's going to be on social media. And that's the battle we fight all the time.
And
I'm
I
going to
agree
address
with
that. We could
So-
debate this all day. I'm going to address that. I will get Sherry and staff with Major Lenhart because that process has changed. It used to be the call went directly to sheriff or to Sherry, and then she would dispatch all the information to the principal, to the student services group and everybody like that. We probably need to get back to that one because he told, I don't know, one of the lieutenants or sergeant, who then contacted the SRO at the school, which was never given to the district. So it's one of those things that the district's one that needs to know that when we are in charge of taking it out of the schools, we will fix it.
And I don't want there to be a miscommunication. This to me isn't about, well, we need to know just because we need to know. I want information that we need to be able to react on, that we can do our job to do our role effectively. That's really the only reason why I am
I know
concerned.
how much more goes along with something of that nature, or in just traumatic in itself, whatever scenario that may be. I know that how that affects the kids in the school. I know that the behavior changes. I know the atmosphere changes. We understand that. So I think we can easily get to that.
All right, and Major Leonhard, I appreciate you standing up here before us to answer questions, and you know, there have been some questions, but I had another one, but I'm going to give the floor. I'm going to yield the floor to Ms. Council. Go
It's
ahead.
a rhetorical question that came up during our expulsion hearings, because we have zero tolerance in the code of conduct, so it was something that we couldn't answer, and we're not trying to tell SROs how to do their job, but there was an absence of teen citations in almost every drug issue that we addressed this year. And we just kind of had a rhetorical question, well, why aren't there teen citations being issued?
Okay.
Yes, SRO.
I think we're just going to have to look at that, and
Yeah.
we'll address it from there. I mean,
And maybe
hopefully the
that's-
answer is we don't have that many drugs in our school. That would be a great answer, right?
That would be a nice
Yeah,
answer.
that'd be a good one.
And maybe some of those are a time where I know we've had some great workshops with Farmer, where they've come forward and said, you know what, this is how we have to approach it from the sheriffs under the law,
Yeah.
which is different from how the school board gets to take it. And I think even if it's a good reminder for board members, it's also good for the public to understand there are differences. There are defined duties. You don't do discipline.
That's right.
Much as we sometimes unintentionally want to put you in that role, it's.
All right, so I understand the issue with the transportation of the money drops. I don't know if it's communication, but there may be some discrepancy there. But one thing is there's no discrepancy of that the system was changed. Now, if it's not broken, why change it? I mean, we had a good system in place, and now, so, you know, I mean, if you want to look at the whole picture here, the timing of it was terrible, but anyway, you know, I don't understand why, if we have a proven system in place that is financially achievable and fiscally responsible, to now go and make such a huge jump in that. Why did we do that?
Are you talking about a huge jump in dollars? Because the system didn't change very much at all. So there's a difference in dollars, but we're also facing the aspect of now our responsibilities in the school are much more than they once were. We cannot leave these schools unattended when.
Right, but that's an after school, it's after school when they're
So
making
it's
the money.
additional
So
responsibilities to the deputy sheriff, so we had to make some adjustments there. Now, I think this is
SROs aren't gonna be doing the job anymore, is that what you're saying?
They can, but we gotta get the extra duty contract resolved, which is in it. It's part of it. It's part of the extra duty contract with the school deposits. So
Right.
what changed there, and maybe it is appropriate time to discuss now, Tracy Seffern can come up here and actually give you, what we did is go back last year to show the difference in what you were charged currently, what it would end up resulting in this year. Instead of just throwing numbers out, Tracy put together some pretty solid numbers for you of what the costs are gonna be.
Well, that would probably be an agenda, you're working on that contract, Mr. Redshaw?
Yes.
So that's gonna be an agenda item
September 11th.
at the September 11th meeting. I mean, that would probably be the more appropriate time to get into that discussion. I mean,
But here's the question, how much did we raise the rent on WTC for the calisthenics, for the wet track, for the gun range? I forget, how much did we raise that?
I don't think you raised it at all.
We probably didn't,
Right.
and I forget how much we charge. Do you remember? We don't charge.
I get that.
That's where I think we're at.
Okay.
We're not charging for millions of dollars of worth of access that we cooperatively do together because they're the taxpayers.
I understand it.
And that's where I think we're saying, when we're trying to build relationships that have been built for decades, and we're talking about raising, I understand there probably is an increased cost. We deal with those increased costs all the time.
More than double?
But there comes a point to say, is that really what we're talking about? Because I really do not like the idea of having to go tit for tat of everything that we benefit from one another, and we're going to start to put them down in dollars. Because if we're going to do that, nobody wins.
Well, I get you, and I totally understand that and agree with it. There's benefits to certain things that you do, and both. And it is a give and take, because I'm all about give and take. So I understand that, and you bring up a valid point. But the other thing that goes along with it is our extra duty details. This was not something done to the school board. This was a revamping of how we needed to do business at the sheriff's office. We hadn't raised those rates in forever. We were one of the lowest ones in the area. I mean, we went out and grabbed our statistical data from other agencies, from Fernando, from Marion, from Sumter, from all the ones that are comparable to us, and we were way on the bottom end of the scale. So it wasn't even, our deputies were not being reimbursed or paid appropriately as others were. So that creates other issues for the sheriff's office, which I won't dive into because that's deep in the weeds. So,
and that's fair, and that is totally fair. I understand that with the extra duty. But when you're talking about interagency agreements, you're talking about agreements of mutual services that we provide to one another. We're not talking about the same as a third party, even a not-for-profit, especially when we are co-providing services to one another. And in the case of the school board, there's a tremendous amount that we're doing without any charge to that benefit. It was bad timing. It was a bad way to have a conversation, and it just added to already a stressed situation.
well, and I was going to bring that up. That's exactly the point I was going to hit. We're 5 months of everybody said that, hey, a very stressed time. If you don't think if I was,
I know you
have. You're sadly mistaken, because this was important to me. But with those changes is like I said, is that and there is give and take, and there's benefits to it. And like I said, you could go so far into like, hey, do we provide detective services? Hey, if our SWAT team responds, are we going to charge you extra? Hey, if we come to the school, because my officers have kids at the schools, and they're going to be 3 or 4 extra patrol cars stationed around the county, man, that are there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, popping out. We're not charging for that either, and that's just a benefit for everyone. So I don't really want to get that deep in the weeds, but I would like to be specific to the deposits, and I'd like to give you those numbers today so that you know them from what we've pulled. Tracy will bring them up here. Tracy, she'll come.
While Tracy's coming up, Danny, may I ask you a question? I won't ask any more.
Yes, ma'am. No, I'm good.
When they're doing the drops and the cost increase, that you all will give us a cost increase, is that money paid extra to that deputy for doing that at that time, or is he already on call, or is he already on a duty?
He's done with his duties for the day. So, and Tracy.
And if you pay time and a half, it would cost you more than that hourly rate. So those clusters were put together to be an hour.
Go up to the mic if you would, please.
They were put together to be an hour, so that's the same as the hourly rate we're charging for all the details, is how those were put together. And Doug, you have my summary sheet, but we actually compared, there were, I think it was 1180 pickups last year. So we did the comparison to last year's, what you paid, it was 19,000 something, and this year with the rate increase it'd be 33. I think it had been said 17 to 50, but that was a little high.
So if we changed our drops to once a week, that would decrease that budget?
Yes.
We're not mandated by law to do them every day. And
You
is that
could do
based
them
on an
less.
everyday occurrence?
That was not every day, because I was told sometimes there's holidays where it might not get picked up, but I also gave you the estimates based on doing it for 180 days. In case you had to do it for the whole 180 days, and that's just for an hour.
Yeah, to answer your question, of course we're going to be open. If you didn't want to do it every day, then we'll make some adjustments and we can figure something out.
And I just wanted to bring up, speaking of, you're discussing job descriptions, this is not and has never been a primary function of an SRO. This deposit bank runs a separate standalone function, And that's why it was incorporated into a special detail, because the officer cannot do that while they're performing their normal functions during the day. And by the mandate, they have to be at that school.
And I understand that, but if we're gonna have those conversations, that's where we start having problems, because I'd say it's not the mandate of the school board to provide the sheriff's department with the number of assets that we do. So, let's not do that. If we really wanna build a relationship, because I don't think we wanna go and start pulling public records on our side to say, we're gonna start saying, how much would it cost if we now start charging the sheriff for all of those functions? Because that's not going to be, again, a good conversation. And it's going to add a tremendous amount of cost now to everybody if we open up those conversations. All right, there is a lot of money that this school district provides to the sheriff's office in a tremendous amount of assets, and if we want to start changing all of that operations, that's going to change a lot of figures as well. There needs to be some real positive conversations.
And it sounds to me like, I mean, obviously there's going to be communications here with the issues going on with a notification and, you know, our threat assessment teams, we have school resource officers are involved with that. And when we look at threat assessments, when we look at going forward, if there's an officer that feels like that student may be a threat to school, it's going to be their responsibility to notify the school. I mean, that's plain and simple as we go forward. And so I just want to make sure that, you know, that those communication lines are most valid, are most valuable to us. And I think we're going to get some, maybe we are starting this movement forward and
well, I think here's the thing, I'll give you my opinion. Things have got to change a little bit. I think from what we've gotten to into where we're going, they've got to change. And that's just not this. I'm talking about on certain types of things where we can identify these kids as threats and, you know, who's going to say something. And the last thing I want to hear again is, oh, that doesn't surprise me that kid did that.
Right.
That's my personal opinion.
Right.
You know, it is what it is. So you go ahead and do that and you try to work through it. Now there's some hurdles to jump over and laws and
well, again,
other things.
Thank you for coming. Are there any other questions that we have for Major Leonard?
Thank you.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Danny. Appreciate it.
Have a good day.
All right, is there any other public comment? Anyone else like to address the board? Okay. No other public comment. We're going to move to our next item, and that's any other business that needs to come before the school board. Ms. Muller. That's right.
Been going to SAECs at Crest. What a great time I had there. I thank the SRO for being there. He was at the SAC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, good.
That's it. All good.
Also report on SAC that Crystal River High School, you know, they came up one grade to C2B, and they're working on it again. They are energized people, and they're working on bringing the grades up in all areas, so very proud of that group.
Okay.
I haven't had an SAC next week.
I wanted to ask if maybe this board is agreeable to have on a future workshop information on MTSS or multi-tier systems with regards to how we identify and provide services to our students. A lot of times this is the transition of how they get to being classified as an ESE student. It's also how our students are identified for immediate interventions or more appropriately additional help. The reason is because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. And it used to be known as RTI for a lot of us. Now it's referred to MTSS. It's largely, I think, the same system. But there seems to be an understanding that maybe we either have or don't have more flexibility on it. And I think that it would be vital to us to have that opportunity. So if we might be able to do that. You go right ahead. Good luck.
Thank you.
Was at the Educational Technology Council by Ms. Androsky. She did an amazing job. It was her first council that she chaired, and there was a tremendous amount of things that she covered that day, and I'm grateful for that entire team because they really are focused on our needs. Yesterday I had the opportunity of doing some school visits with Representative Ralph Mazzullo and his aide Adele, and we visited some classrooms. Some of my most exciting part was, aside from visiting the classrooms and showing them the classrooms, is He wants to again work on an alternative pathways to high school graduations bill. And I just have to say, we are blessed to have somebody who gets it when it comes to that particular issue, and I appreciate that. We talked a little bit about school security, and I don't think it's probably any surprise. He seemed to be on a lot of the same pages as we did, and he was hopeful that the legislatures were going to be taking up that and working that through. We really need to, and this is it goes into these next two pieces, and that is, we talked about a resolution on the Guardian program. I think we need to also, maybe at that time, whether that's on the agenda, if there's any other legislative issues that we want to take. I don't necessarily want to mix them, meaning the resolution on that should be its own. But we have some issues that are still outlined. Amendment 8 is one that's out there. Are we going to take a position on that and speak in one voice from this board? The other issues is, for example, if Representative Pizzullo is going to move forward with another bill, I think we need to help give some direction as to how that may look. So those are just things, it doesn't have to be today, but I do think they're things we need to keep focused on.
That's it, okay. The one thing I had is that our next meeting is on September 11th. There is an event in the 9/11 Day of Remembrance exhibit at the Valerie Theater that goes from 12 noon to till 7:30, but there's a Freedom Walk at 5:30. I know we have some schools that are going to be going to the Valerie Theater in the morning. I don't know of an actual service or ceremony they're actually doing. Major Leonard, do you happen to know about that? Is there a 10 o'clock or? I didn't see anything about that.
What I can do, let me check with Captain Vincent. I'm sure there is if there's something at the Valerie Theater.
Well, I want to make sure that our board members, that you'll know what is going on. I know I've been to that. I know some of you have been to that too in the past, but that's a nice event there. And we do have our students that take part in that program in the morning. But we have a board meeting scheduled. That's our regularly scheduled board meeting, so we can't change. We're not going to change our board meeting, but we'll, depending on the amount of expulsions, we don't know if it'll be 2 or 3. I'm hoping we can meet at 3, but you know, you can check on that. But it will be a time for, let's see, who has opening exercises? Is that you, Ms. Bryant?
It's me.
Okay, so you'll have it on 9/11. Okay.
I believe it's also the night we approve our budget.
Okay, we have a public hearing for the budget.
It's a public hearing.
At 5:30.
At 5:30, okay, so we do have a public hearing at 5:30, so obviously we won't be able to be at the Freedom Walk, but maybe we can get down there to the 9/11 exhibit sometime during the day, so that'll be good. Okay. All right, that's all I had.
I'm good.
Okay, with that, I will adjourn the meeting.